by law, it is allowed. It's our constitutional right. It's something that's there. And so, where is the problem? If there are people who are being destructive as part of these processes, then those are the people who should be taken care of, as in they should be either arrested, whatever the case is supposed to be. But there should be no use of excessive force, which our police forces have been known to do.
Now, this past week saw a continuation of street protests in Kenya that had started several weeks ago. Now, the demos are against a backdrop of escalating costs of living and punitive taxes recently signed to law by the president. The protests were widespread across several counties and were met by a show of force by the police in tow with canisters of tear gas. In an unfortunate turn of events, 9 people were killed in what is alleged to be live bullets from non-uniformed security officers. Now, earlier today, religious leaders urged for the repeal of the contentious Finance Act, while AZIMIO leader Raila Odinga announced further demos starting Wednesday next week. And while speaking in Nakuru County, President William Ruto pointed an accusing finger on former President Uhuru Kenyatta. He alleged that Uhuru has secretly been funding what he referred to as AZIMIO leaders Raila Odinga anti-government protests. Now let's listen to what President Ruto said before we begin the conversation. Just one moment here.
Maandamano. Na mimi nataka nimwambie rafiki yangu Uhuru, hata wewe wachana na huyu mzee. Waacha kumpatia pesa ya kununua watu wa Mungiki wachome Nairobi. Wewe umekuwa rais, wewe kuwa muungwana. Tulikuunga mkono wakati ulikuwa rais wetu. Wewe wachana, uliunga mtu kitendawili mkono tukamwangusha, wachana na yeye, na usipowachana na yeye hata wewe tutakusafirisha na huyo kitendawili wako. Ama namna gani jameni? Si Uhuru Kenyatta sisi tulimsaidia. Saa hii anapanga kuchoma Nairobi, Nairobi imemkosea nini? Sisi tulimsaidia akiwa rais. Ama namna gani jameni? Sasa anazungusha na huyu mtu sijui amemroga, sijui amemfanya nini. Bure kabisa.
All right. That's President Ruto saying Bure Kabisa. Now, at this point, I want to bring the panel for conversation based on that clip that we had from the president and of course, what's been happening in Kenya. But before that, I want those who are tuned in via Facebook and YouTube to just drop a quick comment and maybe just give us thoughts or views that you're getting maybe from your family, your friends back home. What are people saying about these demos? Are they in support of them? Or do you feel that or do some people feel like it's economic sabotage as has been described in some quarters? Now, I'm going to come to the panel. And my first question to the panel, I'm going to start with you, Omosh, ukisalimia watu pia, is could the government have stopped this from happening? And maybe also just give us your views on just some of these comments that we just played that were made by the president. Omosh, faya karibu sana.
Asante sana. Mwanipokea, mwanisikia. Ebu turn up my headphones. I think I can hear myself, but I'm not hearing myself, but I think I could be hearing myself. Hapo. Wow. Ali, those swalis that you keep asking, those are many questions, eh? So I'm supposed to answer all of them. Okay, let me try. So I'll start with a clip. As the person who is sitting in State House, I'll start with a clip. You don't have anything to prove. So what I don't understand is why President Ruto is on the campaign trail. Because this to me just seems like, the last 4 years of Uhuru's government back at it again. That's what it seems like to me with this clip, just looking at this clip.
Yes.
And then what he has done is he has gone and provoked somebody who does not need to be provoked. And I don't know if the fact that UK is no longer in power does not mean he doesn't have power.
Exactly.
I think that sometimes you also have to learn from the old playbook. And Ruto has that old playbook of MO1. But you also have to tap in the modern stuff into it. And a lot of those, shenanigans that you're doing go out the door because we have social media. So all those things you used to hide are gone. You can't hide them anymore. Zile vitu za kuweka watu Nyati House, I don't know nini, people disappear. Those things are gone. People will know within probably hours of something happening and exactly how it happened. Now, with that said, I'll leave that clip alone because to me, I think that clip was unnecessary. I don't think he should have gone there. If he was going to chastise the opposition, he should have chastised the opposition directly, but he shouldn't have brought UK into it. But he has. He's brought UK in. And then maybe now he's brought UK in because he has credible evidence or he has information from the investigative services of the country. And if that's the case, then charge the guy.
Now, what would he be charging the guy with? And this is, of course, this is allegations.
Yeah, allegations are
this
that.
Is allegations.
If he's saying, and from what he's saying, is that you're funding this guy to go hire goons, which he said was Mungiki, right? So Mungiki has now been reactivated, according to him.
What I'm trying to understand, Omosh, is people are demonstrating.
Correct.
You know, so let's assume what he said was actually true, that UHURU was sponsoring these activities. Demonstrations are allowed.
Demonstrations are allowed.
They're legal.
Yes.
So what is he going to be charging you with?
Demonstrations are allowed, yes. But then remember what in his statement, you listen to his statement, Osema, Kuchoma, Nairobi, that there were goons who are being paid, and it's UHURU who is paying them to burn Nairobi. And by the way, the goons are none other than Mungiki.
Okay, if you have evidence, you have all the investigative
that is why
agencies.
That's why he should not have said that. He should have gone direct and done what they're supposed to do, and you go and you arrest people with the evidence and you prosecute them. Okay. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Because this is those roadside declarations, back at it again, you know, or to get the masses to start, you know, to spin the narrative. That's the way I'm looking at it. Okay, so moved past that. So now let's go back to the demos or the maandamano or is it civil disobedience? Is that what it is? Or
yeah, a combination of all.
Yes. By law, it is allowed. It's our constitutional right. It's something that's there. And so where is the problem? If there are people who are being destructive as part of these processes, then those are the people who should be taken care of, as in they should be either arrested, whatever the case is supposed to be. But there should be no use of excessive force, which our police forces have been known to do. And there's been several clips that we've seen, you know, of people being beaten. Like one guy was being thwacked. That guy was beaten by, I think, like 10 different people over the span of, I think, like 4 minutes.
You know, I have participated in these mandamanos before in my previous life.
Mm-hmm. And what was your experience like then?
And I'll tell you something. These mandamanos, usually, they're very peaceful. The chaos begins when the police start interacting with the crowd.
Or antagonize.
Yes.
Because there's interaction where they stand aside. You remember even leading up to the elections, there was a lot of things that were happening where the cops were they were standing to the side. They were not engaging.
Yes. So remember elections, that's you know, like an event that has to happen. But now this political rallies,
I'm not talking about you remember there were things that were happening.
Yes.
Because leading up to elections, there were things that were happening where in normal circumstances, under normal circumstances, the police would have engaged with the wananchi.
Yeah.
And they were not. They were letting these people be. And so from and like you said, a lot of times it starts peacefully. And that's so now if we look at it from that perspective, that it starts peacefully, but then when you have that one bad apple and then you have the the crowd effect.
So typically it's when the police get involved, and then there's a new phenomenon nowadays whereby it's in the interest, because the government does not want these protests.
Yes.
So they want to paint, you know, like the people who are holding the protests as the people who are lawless. Mm-hmm. So what they do now, the government, and this is something new we're seeing, the government is also hiring its own people.
Correct.
If the protests are too peaceful, the people who've been hired by the government are told, you know, nendo kachome matatu. You
Correct.
know, so that it can appear on TV.
Yes.
And then we're going to accuse these other guys of doing that.
Because you can't prove it.
Yeah, so that's what's happening.
And that could be said for either side, by the way.
That could be said for either side. That's
right?
true. But now when you're in government, you're the one who's holding, you know, like all the investigative agencies, the security agencies. You're the one who's involved with all of them. It's quite unusual, you know, like doing that, because that's what's happening.